Howdy, and welcome back to the Ineligibles podcast. My name is Will Stone at Will Stone CFB on Twitter. This is the Ineligibles podcast. You can find us live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Subscribe to us also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. We're on all the big ones. So, folks, what a week one, and there's reactions, there's overreactions, there's a lot to get into today, but if I have one big takeaway, it's probably that this season is going to be a fun one, and I think not from like from an A&M perspective, I think so, but from a national perspective, uh, definitely just the the parity and the openness and like there's it's as wide open of a field as I've seen since I've been, like in 2011 when I was a freshman at A&M. Like, we went through phases of, it's Bama or it's Georgia or Ohio State or Clemson, and now it's like those teams are still good, but everything is just it's a lot. The margins are a lot narrower, and I don't know. I'm excited. I mean, we had some great games this weekend that we'll get into. A&M showed some good things, but you look across the country, and if you're picking a playoff field today, that probably won't be how it ends up in December. So, but it's it's just setting up to be a fun one, and I'm excited to be along with you guys and break it all down. So, A&M 42, UTSA 24. A lot of thoughts on this one from and some polarizing thoughts as well from Aggie fans, and I think what I'll always say in week one, first game of the year, you are typically you are not as good or as bad as you think you are in week one. Week one in 27 or in 2021, sorry, week one in 2020, the COVID year, A&M's best season in the past decade. Uh, they beat Vanderbilt, who was 0 10. They beat Vanderbilt 17-12 in an ugly game. Nothing looked sharp, and then they get smoked by Bama, and they reel off 8 straight wins after that. So contrast that with how good we all felt in 2023, scoring a bunch of points on New Mexico, and then getting thrashed by Miami, and uh, you know firing our head coach to the tune of several $1 million at the end of that season. So you don't know. I mean, 2014 South Carolina blowout on the inauguration of the SEC network, and we went 7-5. So, but still, even against a quote unquote lesser opponent, which I think UTSA is pretty good, like we talked about last week. There's plenty to take away, good and bad, but you can't expect, you know, the way things worked out on Saturday. It won't be that way every single week. I think there's some give and take, but let's start with the quarterback. I mean, I thought this was the best that Marcel Reed has looked in an A&M uniform, just in terms of his comfortability in the offense, his confidence, his accuracy. I mean, he did what we expected him to do. Like he was the point guard of the offense, getting the ball into the hands of the playmakers, and we'll get to those playmakers. But I think his adjusted accuracy was right at or right under 70%, which is pretty solid. Only had one drop on the night. Still had a 9.2 yard average depth of target. So like it wasn't the screens were big plays, but he's still pushing the ball downfield a little bit. I think there's still more to come as far as the deep shots. Like I think we had eight. And in fact, I'm going to start doing an article. I think mine went out today, or I need to go edit it today to go out on Good Bull Hunting. But I'll do kind of a stat recap after every game, and it'll probably go out on Mondays. But these are like some of the notes from that. We had eight passing plays of 20 yards or more against UTSA. We had 30 all last season. Since Jimbo was the coach, from Jimbo's entire tenure and through last year, year one under Elko, the passing offense has been Aggie fans. It's been our big, our biggest frustration. And you know, there's so many teams that across the country, and especially in this conference, that can hit big plays in the passing game, and we just haven't done it. And I think not that they'll go out and do and have eight, every single Saturday. That'd be you know number one in the country if they got eight every weekend. But I think there's big things to come in the passing game. I think the quarterback is a big part of that. I think there's room for growth. I think you did see him go through his reads much better. I think the offense in general was just you could tell the difference in it being designed for him and these players instead of what we had last year with the quarterback change midseason. So I thought that was noticeable. I thought his he didn't make the correct read every single time, but you did see him go, and last year he would do it sometimes too fast. It'd be like boom, 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 and he would fly through them and he would miss, a guy getting open. I thought he was on time for the most part on Saturday. Going to his first, his second, and sometimes his third read. But there's still things that he missed. There's balls he would want back. I mean, I think obviously the wide open deep shot to Concepcion that he missed. Obviously, you want that one back, but the screen pass, like one of the touchdowns to Craver was a little bit low. But I think the biggest thing was his intermediate passes. You take out the screens and the deep shots. I thought the stuff that was kind of between between 5 and 20 yards. I thought that stuff I thought was pretty solid. I thought he was able to push the ball downfield a little bit, and honestly was probably more accurate on those than some of the screens. So yeah, it was very encouraging, and I think you can only expect for Marcel to improve from week to week. Even this weekend, he could be have a better performance against another team that is at a big talent disadvantage. And then as far as his running goes, I think this is kind of a theory or concept that I've heard from other podcasts in the past. So, like for instance, for a guy like Riley Leonard last year at Notre Dame, with their schedule, he doesn't need to run the ball 15, 18 times every single game. There's games where Marcel, like UTSA, like Utah State, we don't need Marcel to run the ball 12 times. I think against Notre Dame, yeah, like put it all out there, and go full speed, dive for first downs, all that good stuff. I think there was a couple instances where Marcel, stepped out a little bit early on some things to where if that's a big time opponent, I think he's selling out. I think in a game like we saw Saturday, especially once you got a pretty comfortable lead, there's no sense in risking an injury, to your most important player on offense. So yeah, I think I would kind of expect to see that. We'll talk about that as we get closer to Notre Dame and how that matches up. But yeah, I think all in all, I'd give Marcel an A for the weekend. And yeah, just excited to see his growth. But receivers, I mean, it's been the talk of the town. It's been the talk of the offseason. We talked about it on here last weekend with Robert. But all offseason, it's been, the number one thing that this team had to do to improve from year to year is we had to improve the receiver room. And we said all year last year, going into last year, hey, this team is pretty solid. We're missing there's not the level of guys that we need at the receiver spot, and that was true, and that held A&M back last year. It's we thought it'd be a 180. We felt pretty good about it, but we still wanted to see it with our own eyes in a real game. And boy, did we see that on Saturday. Mario Craver, Casey Concepcion, just totally lit it up. Uh, Showcased their speed, more speed than we've had in that receiver room in you know at least since 2016. And then you factor in the guys that didn't get as many targets, but still have the ability that you saw glimpses of, like Terry Bussey, like Bethel Roman. It's very exciting. I mean, I put this in my stats post, but Mario Craver had 105 yards after catch in that one game. Our leader last year for 13 games, or in 13, like having played 13 games, was Noah Thomas with like 232. So Craver in one game is damn near halfway there. And not saying he's going to get 109 or 105 every single weekend, but it's a big part of this offense. And just it makes, you know, I talk about making things easy on your quarterback. With the way the offense is structured, we don't need Marcel to be Superman. Like now at South Carolina, they need Lenore Sellers to be Superman, and he kind of is. He's an incredible player. But we don't need Marcel to be that. We can't put everything on him and say, hey, you have to be perfect and make every single play, and every single throw has to be, a perfect throw. Not the case with this group. I mean, you saw the screen pass I talked about earlier, where Craver has to, kind of scoop, like almost like scoop it off the turf to catch it, and keeps his balance because he's an amazing athlete, and then takes it in for a touchdown. And even just the first downs, the 7 or 8 yarders on those quick passes, we haven't had that. And to go along with that, the effort on the perimeter in blocking by the receivers, and by the tight ends, it's it's a breath of fresh air. The last time I saw a group block like that was 2012 with Ryan Swope and Mike Evans. So I think it speaks to the buy-in from these kids. Like obviously their receivers, they want the ball in their hands. They want to make plays and be on the highlights, but I think it speaks to what they do when they don't get the pass thrown their way, and that's how you earn reps. So, but the blocking, on the outside was tremendous, and it's definitely something to watch going forward. Um, Conceptually, I should have started with this. Uh, I think the way we treated this game, we being the A&M coaching staff, the way I think that Mike Elko and the coaches treated this game was like their second scrimmage. Um, if you follow things around A&M, you know that they had one scrimmage, one real scrimmage this August. Um, I I think that was due to two things. One was to reduce injury risk, but two was we didn't start with a Clemson or an Ohio State or a Notre Dame. Like we started with UTSA and then Utah State, and so you kind of get not to like I'm sure that Elko took the game planning seriously, but there's things you can tell where they were like, okay, we're kind of just trying some stuff out. There's a lot of experimenting going on both sides of the football, and the way they moved around offensive, I couldn't even count. I mean, I bet there was 7 or 8 different offensive line combinations. We played 3 different centers. We played 3 different guards, 3 different tackles. Just a ton of movement around the offensive line, and every combination looked pretty solid. But there were still things that, um, you know, there were still things that they did. I think in terms of uh, some blocking concepts that I think you could kind of look at that and see like, okay, like, and just like to sum this all up, our running backs got 13 carries. I think that they got 10 carries in non-garbage time. I doubt there will not be a single conference game where that happens. Like Once UTSA said, "Hey, we're gonna stack the box and really crash in on that run game," we said, "Okay, good." We we're actually thrilled to hear you say that, and, and the coaching staff got to really, you know, see what the passing game could do because I think that they know that they can run the ball with this group, just based on what they have coming back from last year. So to get that chance before we really get into the meat of the schedule to just get as many live reps as you can, and for Marcel and the receivers to get on the same page, that's absolutely massive. So that's seemed to me like the way they approached it, and I think it's a positive. So offensive line. Well, so second thing, kind of broad topic with Marcel and the receivers, an increase in play action, which I think we all would agree is a good thing. When you can run the ball like A&M can, play action just makes things so much easier. It's an easy button for the offense. You fake the run, the defense crashes in, your quarterback gets an easy read. I mean, it's as simple as that. And we did it some last year. I think the number was like 24% or 26%. It was 33% on Saturday. So a third of Marcel Reed's dropbacks did involve play action. The biggest difference, though, and let me get this exact stat so I don't screw this up, was on screens. Last year I kind of brought that up. I'm like, man, like you could tell that Colin Klein wanted to call more screens, but we didn't block them right, like hardly ever. There was a handful later in the year where we would execute it well, but by and large, we're just not a very good screen running offense. So they kind of scrapped it. In all of Reed's dropbacks in 2024, we ran screens on 7% of those plays. On Saturday, it was 26.8%. So from 7 to almost 27, that's a stark difference. And it wasn't just the bubbles. Like it wasn't just like I'm going to catch it and throw it to the sideline. There were other kind of screens, and some worked and some didn't. But I think that's kind of an interesting thing to watch with the offense going forward is some of the more creative type of screen. There was one on a third and long early in the game, maybe in the first drive, where it probably should have been a pass interference because I think I think like the receivers and tight ends are all like blocking downfield, and like Bethel Roman's coming, on a little, like shallow crossing route. Um, and the DB for UTSA just knocks him out. And I'm like, dude, like how is that not PI? But I mean, maybe they thought it was behind the line of scrimmage. I don't know, but uh, I think there's just different things like that to kind of watch out for. I think would be it's super interesting to see that develop. But so play action screens, those are good things. Those are easy buttons for the offense. With the speed that we have at receiver, doing those things makes sense to me. Offensive line. I know some people, I know that we want to see a more dominant run game like we saw last year. I think that's coming. I would bet I'd feel pretty comfortable that we'll see that in the coming weeks. And I think we missed some chances too on Saturday. There was, going back through it, there was a run in the second half where Le'Veon Moss only had 3 carries, and there was one where like as soon as he got the ball, he just kind of didn't look like he was very well balanced. He's just kind of stumbling a little bit, and if he keeps his feet, that's like a 30-yard run at least. He may have scored on it, to be honest, because it was wide open. But like on most of the other ones, it wasn't really bad blocking. It was just kind of, that's what they wanted to do. Like UTSA said, hey, last year y'all couldn't pass, but you could run very well. We're going to make you beat us through the air. And if you do it, then good for you. But we will do our best to shut down your run game. And I don't know if I'd call it shutting it down, but once they did that, we said, hey, cool, we're going to air it out. That actually works out better for us. From a pass pro standpoint, pretty good on the night. I thought, even with the rotation among all the different guys coming in and switching positions, I thought that they generally blocked pretty well. They allowed a pressure rate on just 22% of Reed's dropbacks. That's, championship territory. I think anything around the, you know, 25% mark is where you want to be. That number was in the 40s in 2022 and 2023. So seeing a 22, I'm cool with that. I thought they did well. What I wasn't crazy about, and this was one of those kind of experimental things, was and I get why they do it and why they're trying to rep it, but on some of those play actions, they'll pull the guard to kind of help sell it. And our guards, it was mostly Chase Pasantis, who's a great player. He had a great game, but he never really got comfortable like pulling for pass pro. Like he would pull like it's a run play, and then try to block the edge from the other side, and like he would make contact, but it just uh, it's something that if they want to run that, they need to keep repping it and keep getting better at that, because I bet most of the pressures probably came from plays like that. And when you pull a guy like that, then your center and your tackle have to really squeeze down and seal that gap. Like one of the first plays of the game on the first drive, they got pressure because we did pull a guard and the center, couldn't quite get back there in time to seal that off. So it's really everything in the game that I saw. From a negative perspective, it's not really physical. I didn't see a lot of physical limitations with this group. It's mostly mental, and it's game one, it's week one. That's to be expected, but we want to see growth. So between the screens and the running game, and the more I think Cole Kubalik, I think he even wrote this in his A&M his A&M tweet of the week. I think he called it like more exotic pass pro concepts. If we just block straight up man for man, we're pretty damn good at that. So, but I get the need to develop some more stuff. Running backs, they look good. Moss looks good. Needs to keep his feet better. He was probably just juiced up to be back in action. He fell down on the pass on the first drive. He slipped on the what could have been a long run that I mentioned earlier. EJ Smith looks great. Great effort on the punt return. I'm sure you guys have already seen that, but just it's even if we're not the most talented team in the country, I love seeing a team that gives a shit and is going to go out there and play hard for each other and block and do the little things right. We saw a lot of that on Saturday, and that's something that I'm proud of. So, tight ends, I think this is a stock rising group. I thought all three guys showed a lot of good stuff. First and foremost, people saying that Amari Niblack he refuses to block. He can't block. He'll never block. He's just a receiver. He did some blocking. He did some blocking this weekend. And not just he's so versatile. You can put him outside and kind of stack him out wide with the receiver. And he did some of that. He blocked very well out there. That's right in his wheelhouse. But even in line, on a running play, he blocked two guys. He looked great. He blocked two guys. Pass pro, same thing. Like on one of the deep shots that we hit, you probably saw that and were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing protection. Well, yeah, we had 7-on-4. Texas and Sark do that all the time. It's called max protection, and we've never done it in years. So, if we have, we haven't done it very much. So, like things like that are things that you don't notice like in the moment, but then you go back and watch like, oh my gosh, like we kept, like we ran a deep crosser with Concepcion and Craver, and Marcel was able to just sit back there and wait for Craver to get open, which he did, and then hit him for a big play. So lots of good in the offense. There's so much there to work with and to be excited about and to work on and get better at. But I thought Nyblack really showed well. Burkature, great hands first and foremost. Made some really tough catches. Obviously, the one where he got knocked a little bit after catching it, um, but he came down with it. He hung in there. So I was impressed with the way he caught the ball. Theo had some big plays, and then we didn't see a lot of Burkature blocking, which is something I was kind of looking forward to. But maybe in the third or fourth quarter, it was one of the runs when we got down there. Maybe it was on EJ's run where he got close. Burkature was leveling dudes. Like he blocked their defensive end like all the way to the opposite side of the formation, and um, I I think this coaching staff is going to be giddy with what they have to work with and all the different things that like you mix in those receivers, the offensive line, the backs, the tight ends, and the quarterback who's gaining confidence. Um, the upside for this unit is really really high, and that's very exciting if you're an A&M fan. So, um, what else on offense? Um, Maybe biggest negative, and there's probably cases where if this is a real game, where I think you see them go for it, but just 3 of 11 on third down. I think that's got to be better. But there were, a handful of cases to where it was like a 4th and 1. Like we, had a good play on third down and got it really close to set up 4th and short. I think you see them go for that, especially if it's around midfield in a tight game. So, but yeah, just don't let it get to that. Just convert the third down. So, yeah, offensively, very excited. Excited to see what they do this weekend. I think you'll see more run game and hopefully another step for Marcel. But defensively, give me 1 second for a quick break. The defense, what everyone is so mad about. I get it. I'm not trying to sunshine pump and say, hey, everything's going to be fine. But I think on defense, just as much, if not more so than the offense, was just out there experimenting, just trying different things, trying uh, new players, trying new, uh, just a lot of things that you wouldn't see in a real game. For instance, and some of it is just like honestly, like this is one of the better offenses that we'll see this year. I know that sounds ridiculous, but they got some real guys. Like half the offense is on the first or second team, preseason all AAC. So the running back is an NFL player, but I'm not here to make excuses for why certain things happen. But I'll put it to you this way: I think most of the runs were due to just kind of some weirdness. There was a couple, and especially the first touchdown run was the one that I'm probably most concerned about because it was your defensive end, uh, Cassius Howell, who had a nice game. You know, got a little impatient, and instead of holding the edge, he peeked inside. And you can't do that. You have to be disciplined enough to, you know, I know you want to make plays uh, and and things like that, but something that they need to work on is setting that edge and holding that and he had it just fine, but at the last moment he couldn't see the back, so he kind of looked inside for a second, and by that point he was already blocked. And to where if you just wait for a little bit longer and hold that spot, you probably stop it for no loss or for a very, very short gain. And then the corner on that side, Will Lee, who was great in coverage. And, I think one of the biggest things from last year was runs to the outside where our corners just weren't seeing it well. And that showed up on that play with Will Lee. So, I don't know if he got caught looking in the backfield at the quarterback or because there wasn't even a receiver on that side. So he got caught up in something and just totally lost contain a time or two. So to me, that's the biggest one, the biggest place for improvement is kind of holding that edge and being disciplined on those outside runs. Some missed tackles, too many missed tackles for my liking. I know it's game one. I know we only scrimmaged one time. Something about thud tempo and not tackling to the ground in practice. So that should get cleaned up going forward. Probably, defensively, probably the biggest thing I'm watching this weekend against Utah State is the tackling. They have a nice running back over there. The quarterback, likes to move around a little bit. I think by and large we tackled well, but even from there was a play where York, and York played really well, but there's a play where he's our defensive tackles jam it up inside, and the gap's open for him to go in there and stop it for no gain. And he, just kind of comes in at an awkward angle and misses the tackle, and then he makes a run that shouldn't have happened. So, and it wasn't like York missed some, Scooby missed some. I thought probably the best one was Marcus Ratcliffe. I think he probably played the best game. Was typically in the right spot at the right time. Didn't blow very many assignments, if any. Tackled well, which by his own admission did not tackle well down the stretch last season with injury and just not being developed enough physically. I think he's made a big transformation from last year, and I'm excited to watch him. But on most of the let's go and talk about the big one. The first snap coming out of the half, it's 21-10. You're like, okay, let's go. Make the typical Elko second half adjustments and shut them down, and then we'll win. 42-13 or something. Well, first play of the second half, 75 yards, touchdown by Robert Henry, and the biggest thing on this play, and I know there's other players on the field that could have made this play, but on this play, Marcus Ratcliffe's not out there. It's sophomore safety Miles Davis in his first snap of the game. Totally misses the call or gets the wrong call or something, and decides instead of playing in the B gap, blitzes from the outside. Like he's nowhere near where the play goes, and he shouldn't be there because the other 10 guys are expecting him to fill this gap, and they look up and he's not there, and then it's history. Henry goes for a big gain and touchdown. That is the most fixable thing that there is because the next 6 drives, you guys have already heard the stats. Like it was 6 straight punts. I think they got 1 first down in that stretch, and it was a 4 play drive. It was complete dominance from after that play until garbage time. So I'm not saying to not worry. And then on some of the other ones, it was like 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 13, and we would put like this super exotic look out there thinking, oh, it's a pass, and they would run power. It was a perfect play call. I'm sure they saw that and said, oh, let's roll the dice here and run the ball on 3rd and 13, and it worked for them on those occasions. So yeah, and I think on some of those like Noah McHale, true freshman, in his first action, he's, they'll do that where they kind of walk different guys up to the line of scrimmage and kind of, and simulate pressures. And then, the linebacker, in this case, Noah McHale, is supposed to get back, to a certain gap and, fill that gap. And he just kind of missed it on that play, and they had a big run. So, once again, I think in a real game, you won't see them just trying a ton of different formations and personnel groups, and just trying, a bunch of exotic blitzes on 3rd and 13. I think I like being aggressive, but I think this was more like, oh, let's just let's try this and see how we execute that. But all in all, not super worried if the running back this weekend for Utah State runs for 200 yards and we don't tackle and have huge gaps in the defense. I'll be concerned, and I'll come back here next week and I'll say, hey guys, we should be concerned. But as of right now, I'm not super worried about it, to be honest. Pass rush, defensive line, I thought inside they played pretty well. Against the run, I mean, especially against the run, I think we didn't give a lot of ground. We played on their side of the field most of the night. Any notion that our defensive line got dominated is ridiculous. Just turn the film on. You don't see that at all. People say Hal had a bad game. Hal had 5 pressures on like 22 pass rush attempts. And the head coach for UTSA said in his post-game press conference, we ran one true drop back pass the entire game, and we got sacked. So everything was short and quick, and like the quarterback gets the ball, boom, it's out of his hand. He's not sitting back there all day. You can't even really get pressure when it's moving that quickly. But as much as we focus on the run defense and yada yada, I thought, I'm trying to find their stats for the quarterback stats, McCown. Yeah, 19 for 32, 121 yards. The coverage was great. Des Ricks, and that's probably like their skill spots are as good as any at the G5 level. Between the running back, both tight ends, Amador and McEwen at receiver, and a solid quarterback in McCown. And what I think is a pretty good offensive system that Traylor has built at UTSA. Man, they got rolling down the stretch last year. I mean, McCown had like 4 or 5 straight games of like an 80 plus QBR. They were scoring. I think they scored 40 in 6 of their last 7 last year. So it's a good opponent for that level. But those receivers got totally blanketed by Des Ricks and Will Lee. I thought Ricks especially showed very well after the last time we saw him against USC. Tyreek Chappelle, I thought it took him a half to kind of settle in. I thought he had good coverage on one of those passes where just kind of an unfortunate deal. The receiver made a good play and he was just kind of in an awkward spot to be able to tackle him. And on the All-22, which I've been able to watch, he got beat deep once, and that was in the first half, which the quarterback wasn't even looking that direction. But I thought the second half he played a very clean game. Excited to see him grow. He got, I think it was ACL last year in week 2 or 3. So good to get him back and back in game action. What else? Defensive line, edge guys. I mean, we talked about Cash, but I think we pressured McCown on 42% of his dropbacks, which is a high number, especially given that he's just catching the ball and trying to get rid of it. So I thought like the pass rush and especially the third down blitz packages that they're going to run this year. I'm excited to see uh, what uh, what they can do with that. But it's going to be tough to, if the run defense can really get ironed out against the better teams, which we're about to get to the better teams here in a second. It's going to be a big deal because man, I think I love how this sets up for A&M. I love getting UTSA, Utah State, and then huge test, huge benchmark to see, is this going to be the year for us or not? And not that if they go up to South Bend and lose, not that they can't still reach their goals, but man, what a statement you can make and on that weekend against that team, and to kind of put a bow on this game for A&M as we move on to the rest of the country. All in all, some positives. I think it's a perfect result, honestly, because they played very well in a lot of spots, but these coaches have a lot of ammo to really harp on this week. I'm sure these guys got coached hard on their mistakes, and it's from week one to week two. What can you improve on? Like, do we see any improvements, any differences from last week to this week? I think we do, but I'm excited to watch it and break it all down for you. Special teams, I thought was badass. An underrated part of the game now with most of the kicks going through the end zone. But obviously the punt return touchdown. We talked about the blocking, but obviously Concepcion is he's just blazing fast and just an incredible football player. Terry Bussey in the return game looked really nice a couple times. I'm really excited. It was the KC and Craver show this past weekend. I'm excited to see guys like Bussey and Bethel Roman get more chances because I think you got four guys right there that can really play at a high level and stress defenses. So I'm excited to see, maybe this weekend they may get more chances and get more targets. So we'll see. But special teams, the return game could be a big advantage for A&M. How about Jared Zirkle? You hardly ever see a guy unseat a returning kicker that's a fifth-year senior. And Coach Elko said in the post-game press conference, yeah, Zirkle won the job by a wide margin. He was just that good. So I didn't. I haven't checked Tyler White's number. I thought Tyler White could have punted better, but it's week one, so I'm not gonna give him too much of a hard time about his punting. But yeah, that's my recap for that game. So moving into the mainly focused on the opponents of A&M for the next 15-20 minutes. One moment, please. So much to take away, and with the caveat that this was week one. This was everyone's first game that we're going to talk about here, and teams can get better or worse throughout the offseason. You're not as good or as bad as you think you are during week one. So, Texas. Let's just start there. For your first game of the day on Saturday, you know, it was it was a rough go for Arch Manning. From the first pass when Sark dialed up a wide open receiver and Arch just puts the ball into the dirt, and I was like, "Ooh, that's not good." And he made some nice throws in the game, but you know, and I tried to say this, and I commended Jordan Rogers for saying this. Jordan Rogers is the only person in all of the media this summer to not just crown Arch Manning as the next number one overall pick and Heisman Trophy winner. He said, "Look, I watched the film, and at this moment, I don't see the number one overall pick." That's not even an insult. That's a Going number one overall. That's an incredibly huge accomplishment. You have to be freaking amazing to do that. And that's all he said. He was like, "Hey, I don't see the first overall pick right now, based on the film from last year, and I think he could struggle against Ohio State in Week 1." That's all he said. And Longhorn fans who can't handle criticism just raked him over the coals, blew up his comments. Oh, this guy's a loser. This guy's just so much disrespectful and like, look, like I'm not here to carry the water for Jordan. Like he's a big boy. He can handle his own his own mean tweet responses. But and then he was right. Arch played horribly. I mean, he did not play well at all. And now Texas fans are kind of backtracking. Well, it was his first game as number one team and or the reigning champions and blah blah blah. Well, you weren't saying that all summer. You were saying, oh, like it's going to be, we're going to be way better than we were last year because Quinn sucked and Arch is amazing, and that's not the truth right now. So, can Arch get better? Yes. Will is the defense for Texas still very good? Yes. Are the receivers amazing? I don't think so. I think maybe the most underrated part of the whole conversation about Texas and the offense, everyone assumed that Wingo would take a big step and he'd be, you know, looking like a first round pick already. He may very well do that by the end of the year. But DeAndre Moore, Parker Livingstone, the tight end looked good, Jack injuries, but this is a good group of receivers. It's not an elite group. I mean, it just isn't. And you know, I think I'm so curious to see how they perform. Obviously, the rest of the year, but like even against this, like they play San Jose State this weekend. They should destroy them, obviously. But can Arch kind of get back on track or get on track? He's never been on track. Can he get on track? And iron out some kinks and kind of get his rhythm down and kind of settle into college football, because guess what? It's really damn hard to be a quarterback in college, and especially in this conference, and then in big games like that. So, um, just a big old TBD. I mean, they're 0-1, but really, they have a high floor, but the floor is probably 8-4. But that's not going to cut it with that team, in that program, in that fan base. So I'm not saying they will go 8-4. I'm not saying that at all. I think they're probably, 10-2 territory, maybe 9-3. But just really intrigued to see how things go for them the rest of the way. Notre Dame, probably should have started with them because we play them next week, and it's a huge, huge chance for this team to take a big step. If you notice, which I'm fine with this, every show, like I have yet to hear, I have yet to hear anything about A&M really on any, like from anyone. It was kind of glossed over uh, on on cover three on Saturday. Which I mean, I get it. Like, there's so many big games to talk about and like so many bigger storylines. And I'm fine not hearing people talk about A&M because we haven't played you know, anybody of note yet, and we'll get our chance in a few weeks. I actually like it. I don't want to have a spotlight on us right away. We'll have that in 2 weeks, and we'll go out there and show, hey, are we for real or are we not? So, but I think it's just interesting to kind of be, like we're all excited about it and talking about it, and like no one nationally like gives a crap at all about the UTSA game. So, I think it's just kind of funny. But Notre Dame, I was really shocked by how they looked, and they didn't look bad, but man, watching that team last year, just man, they had everything clicking. I mean, it's like what their identity was. They did that very well. They ran the ball. They were physical up front. Obviously, the quarterback was tremendous, great leader, all that good stuff. But the biggest disappointment to me is on the defense. Their defense last year was one of the best I've ever seen. They were, I mean, you go watch that Georgia game, and they they just they just flat out kicked their ass. I mean, Georgia couldn't do anything. They couldn't get an inch on that Notre Dame defense. Those guys just flew around. They were they played loose. They played confident. They were physical. They were fast. Their secondary was locked down, which still very good this year. But I I kind of felt that they had lost too much to maintain the same level. And some other folks were like, well, they didn't lose that much. They're still very experienced, and the secondary's got elite players. Their defensive line is very, very veteran, and they have great linebackers. Well, yes, they have two great corners, a good safety. The rest is kind of TBD back there. I think the nickel and the other safety kind of got exposed a little bit. Defensively, I thought defensive tackle was going to be a big drop off for them, and it definitely is. I'll tell you right now, when we go up there in a few weeks, I would use this big O line that A&M has and just lean on those guys because in the fourth quarter of that game, you started seeing their D tackles get straight up pancaked by Miami's offensive line, and that they just wore them down. And I think with these backs, I think we have better. I think there's a lot of things better about A&M's offense than Miami's offense, if I'm being honest. And not saying we're going to waltz up there and just run over them, but that's just not the same defense that I saw for them last year. And they get a week off, and maybe first game, maybe they come out against us and just you know play with their hair on fire and shut us down. But just from the eye test and and going back through their film, their defense is not the same as it was last year. It's just not. Offensively, very weird regression on the O line for them. Emil Wagner, the right tackle, was really really good for them last year. First time starter. I think he may have been like a preseason All American this year. He may not have been, but I think he was kind of in that conversation. Had the worst game of his career against Miami. Got totally whipped by Ruben Bain for and that guy's a great player. Number 4 for Miami on defense. He'll be a first round draft pick. He's outstanding, but Wagner was just not. He was not comfortable all night. I thought the right guards, they rotated in and out. Both of them took some lumps. And then the left tackle, I think he actually had to leave the game due to cramps or maybe something with the heat in the last couple drives. But he got whipped all night. I think he had a 10. His PFF pass blocking grade was a 10.1. That is the lowest I have seen from a power conference player. I'm not sure I've seen one lower than that. So it's just, and then like what they're doing on offense, it doesn't really scare you. I mean, I thought they'd come out and just pound the rock with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, and they just didn't do that. Like Love had maybe 8 or 9 carries. Price had a good drive there where he broke some big runs, but I thought I'd see more from them, and like I don't know why you would save any of that for A&M. Like you already had a tough, like they lost the game. Like they had a tough game week 1, and if anything, to ease my brand new quarterback in, I'm going to give the ball to my best player, and they did some good things in the passing game with him, kind of down the stretch, but yeah, it was kind of mind-boggling. Now, I would expect against A&M, you know, given that that is our quote-unquote weakness right now, they're going to come out and test us. I think I would expect them to give the ball to Levin Price, on 60% of the plays. But people are kind of big on CJ Carr. Like CJ Carr didn't do a whole lot. It was his average target depth was like 4 yards. Like everything was short. It was, catch the ball, screen, catch the ball, screen, and like dump offs and like little short, routes around the line. Like he had one deep pass late in the game on a busted coverage, and props to him for doing that and completing that. But I thought we'd see just a more dynamic passing game, and we didn't really see that from them week one. And I didn't see a lot from their receivers. I thought Washington had like the one good catch. I thought uh, Faison was solid, but I don't know if Greathouse even had a catch, and then neither did I mean Greathouse and Will Pauling are like their maybe their two best guys. I didn't see either one do anything the other night, so really intrigued by that game. I mean, there's so much things. Sorry, there's so many things that we're going to learn about A&M from that game, and you know, I'll I'll talk about more next week. Let's save that for later. But I'm just really looking forward to it and seeing how we look against that team. Real quick, LSU Clemson. LSU did some nice things in this game. I thought that you know probably not as close as the score indicated. And honestly, neither team looked that great offensively. But you know, with the turnovers and kind of some mistakes that LSU made, they probably should have won that game something like 21-10 or 20-10. 20 like it should have been more than what it was. That's what I'm trying to say. And they had a big play get called back, which I think it was a catch. It probably should have stood. But on a per play basis, I thought LSU outplayed them. But LSU's offense, kind of the same thing that we just talked about with Notre Dame, which is weird because Nussmeier was a vertical guy last year, and they've got great receivers, and maybe they're you know they did it to protect their O line because that was kind of their weakness coming in against a really talented Clemson D line. They said, hey, like just it was screens everywhere. I mean, it was. I think Nussmeier and Carr had the same A dot, the same average depth of target in week one, where it was just everything was short, and it worked. I mean, they got fast guys like Aaron Anderson that can, you know, uh, you know, catch it short and get some yak. So their defense looked a lot better, but I want to see them week to week because it seemed like Clemson just was not prepared at all. Klubnik played awful. Even under pressure, there were things he could have done to exploit how aggressive LSU was being. He just didn't see it or couldn't get it there. And I thought the coordinator, which I'm pretty sure it's still Garrett Riley. I thought he kind of let Klubnik down with some of the stuff he called. You can tell right away that they were going to be aggressive. Just flying downhill and blitzing, and they didn't really do much to combat that or really help Klubnik out in any way. So I think LSU's improved there for sure, but I want to see it against when a team's been able to plan for it. But yeah, man, that's about all I got. I mean, I thought Auburn, uh, ended up beating Baylor by a pretty good bit. Jackson Arnold, much better runner than I remember him being. Didn't throw the ball at all, really. I'm sure those receivers that they paid so much money for are thrilled that they got two catches, and it was just a bunch of called Jackson Arnold runs. So we'll see how that goes against Oklahoma in a couple weeks. But all in all, I mean, I'm pretty fired up. I'm ready to see what this team can do in the coming weeks, and see how things shake out across the country. But hey, last thing, shout out to my Utah Utes, making me look really good week one. They dominated UCLA from start to finish. I thought that I think that Utah is probably my pick to win the Big 12. They look nice. I think it's going to be a tough team to beat, that conference. Quick break, and I'm break is that I'm ending the stream, but stick around after this. If you're listening on podcast, I'll put out a separate episode. I've got a special guest coming up here in about 5 minutes. I'll create a new stream instead of this one to kind of have it be on its own. But yeah, a buddy of mine, or my wife's friend, her husband played for the Chicago Bears, long snapper. He is a Utah State grad. He will be running out the flag for Utah State this weekend at Kyle Field. I'm bummed I won't be there to watch it, but um, if you if you're listening live, if you want to hang out for a little bit longer and listen to that, I'll be ending this stream and then picking that up on my channel on a different stream. So, but yeah, thanks so much for following along. Excited to see how things go this weekend, and